Hello, hi, and welcome to the Therapy by Craft YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. I am the maker and host behind Therapy by Craft. Today is Tuesday, July 2nd, and I initially wanted to do like a proper projects update for you guys. But y'all, my heart right now is just on self-striping yarns. And so that's what I want to talk about today. It is in the middle of summer sock camp, right? Yeah, it's in the middle of summer sock camp. We're like 1 month in to summer sock camp, which is hosted by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady, and it's just a sock knit along. And we're also a month into the Knit All the Stripes knit along, which is a make along that's hosted by Lisa of 72 Stitches, and that one uses self-striping yarn. So Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady is like a sock knit along, and then Lisa of 72 Stitches, or I think it's Knit All the Yarn podcast actually is what she is on YouTube. But she has like, her knit along is just any self-striping yarns type of situation. But anyway, as I was working on my socks and as I was working with my self-patterning, self-striping socks, I was like thinking back to about this time last year when I was very much struggling to find self-striping yarns. Like, I've been knitting for a very, very long time, and yet I just didn't know where to go. It wasn't very accessible to me. And I attended the SoCal Fiber Festival, which is very local to me here in Pomona, California. And I went with the mission of looking for self-striping yarn, and I couldn't find it. There was no vendor who was present at the Fiber Festival who was selling self-striping yarn. And it was such a struggle for me. So because of that, it's been a year of, collecting, trying out different self-striping yarns, self-patterning yarns. And I thought to myself, I really would like to share that information with you. I want to show you what I've worked with. I have like a breakdown of info that I've kind of done a bit of research, and I just wanted to share with you in case you find yourself in a similar situation this year. Maybe you are also new to sock knitting. Maybe you are also interested in using self-striping yarn and you don't know where to begin. Well, you're in the right place. So I will be going over indie dyed yarn with you as well as commercial dyed yarn, because, for accessibility purposes, I will tell you how much they cost for me here in the United States. I will tell you like fiber content, my honest opinions about them. There is one on this list that I would actually not recommend at all, but I'm going to be honest with you about that too. Yeah, and hopefully this collection of information will be helpful for you in your journey to find the perfect self-striping yarn that works for you. So before I begin, like, what is self-striping yarn? In case you've never heard of that before, maybe you've heard of it and you're like, I don't know what that is. Self-striping yarn refers to a yarn that is dyed in such a way that it self-patterns, or it kind of, the pattern or the striping reveals itself as you work through the yarn. And it doesn't have to be a sock. It can be a beanie, or it can be any other kind of pattern, but it is designed to create a pattern as you are working it up. Now, what are the benefits of that? One, you can get a striped sock, for example, or a striped beanie without doing any of the striping. You don't have to worry about ends. You don't have to worry about switching up yarn. If you are taking a project like as a portable situation, you don't have to juggle many different kinds of yarns together. You can just take that one ball of yarn and work on your project, and it will pattern up nicely for you. It's also great because it's fun. I think the process of knitting it, what I've heard over and over again, and what's been true of my experience too, is that it's very, what they would call potato chippy. Like, you keep reaching for it. You want one more round, one more round, one more round, because you just want to get to that next color and then the next color. And then it feels the process feels like it's a little bit faster. And that's a really fun thing. I don't know. Maybe some people like to work slowly, but it's really nice when you're working and you realize how much your project has grown, like you see progress in your project. Anyway, so that's what self-striping / self-patterning yarn is. Sometimes it works up like a stripe. Sometimes it works up like a pattern. I will be sharing both of those things with you. Like I'm going to be using that term interchangeably as I review with you the yarns that I have used personally. And yeah, so all of the yarns that I'm sharing with you are going to be yarns that I've used. So there's way more out there, but I don't want to review them because I haven't worked with them yet. So everything that I share with you today is because I have it in my stash that I've actually worked with it. Most of the socks that I've made, or most of the things I've made are socks, and most of the socks that I've made, I've worn a couple of times. I even have my daughters, like you can see here, my daughters, self-striping socks I've brought here to show you because she wears them pretty hard. She wears them to daycare. And I also want to show you like how that yarn has worn over the months. Okay, let's start with the indie dyed yarns. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 indie self-striping yarn dyers that I want to share with you today. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 commercial yarn dyers that I want to share with you. So we'll start with the indie and work our way that way. Oh, by the way, I will be segmenting this video into chapters so that it's a little bit easier for you to navigate through. If you are interested in just jumping ahead to a specific kind of yarn, look in the description box below and then you'll be able to just navigate and hop around. Yeah, hopefully that'll be helpful. Okay, so the very first yarn, self-striping yarn, indie dyer yarn that I had the pleasure of working with, and I think that she was probably exposed to me the most, is Nomadic Yarns. I believe Nomadic Yarns, oh gosh, I don't even know her name. I just know it has Nomadic Yarns, but she has an Instagram handle and she also sells through Etsy. Let me show you what I've made with her yarn. Ta-da! I don't remember what colorway this is, but in the same fiber festival that I was referring to earlier in this video, I could not find a vendor who sold self-striping yarn. However, there was a lady there who was destashing for a friend, and in that destash were a couple of self-striping yarns. And so I did grab a couple, and one of the ones that I was able to grab was this one from Nomadic Yarns. And I was so excited because I had heard about her, I had wanted to work with her yarn, and there it is. She sells on Etsy, like I said. This is a fingering weight yarn. She sells from Chicago, Illinois through Etsy, and she has a shop update every single Saturday. So that's really nice. This is a very predictable shop update. I think she just celebrated her 10-year anniversary, which is amazing. And what else do I want to say? She also has the option of, or she also gives you the option of having it wound up in a gobstopper ball, which is a really great thing if you like that. Her price range is from $17 to $35, which actually makes her the most affordable option for the indie dyer category. Now, here's why, and this I think is super, super cool. The reason for this is because she offers a 50-gram option, which is great because let's say that you want to try different colorways, but you don't really need a full 100 grams for it. Then get the 50-gram option. And it just allows you to try out an indie dyed yarn without having to pay for it. I have to say that we need to discuss the price point a little bit here, because you're gonna find that with the indie dyers, the price point is pretty high. But the reason for that is because dyeing self-striping yarn looks like a hell of a lot of work. I've tried to look it up on YouTube. I think there's some Instagrammers who dye self-striping yarn, and they share what the process looks like a little bit. And yo, it looks crazy. It looks super involved. It looks like you have to dye small batches at a time. There's a lot of work that goes into self-striping yarn. So I absolutely think that the price point is justified given the amount of work that goes into creating this very beautiful thing. And really, they're doing the work of striping so that I don't have to do the work of striping. So in that way, I do think that the price point makes a lot of sense. However, the fact that Nomadic Yarns gives the option of having a 50-gram ball makes it so that if paying that much money isn't justifiable for you personally with where you're at in your finances, then you can still have the joy of knitting an indie dyed self-striping yarn without having to pay for the full price, if that makes sense. Okay, anyway, moving right along. So one thing that I do want to note about Nomadic Yarns is that I noticed that sometimes the dyeing it doesn't blend all the way through. So here is what I mean. You can see in this stripe right here that the color is a little bit more saturated in the middle of that stripe than it is in between the stripes. And I found that sometimes with her dyeing, there are some spotty, like there's some stitches that don't have any dye on it. Now, from far away, like you can't even tell, and it's still beautiful and gorgeous. And it's also very possible that maybe the yarn that I got from that D-stash sale was more of like an oopsie yarn. I don't know, because I did go and purchase more of her yarn. This is also Nomadic Yarns. This one's called You Vex Me. It's in her twisty sock, and I've only used her twisty sock, which is a, oh wait, that's not true. I've used her trusty sock, which is a 75-25 base, which is this. This is in her twisty sock, which is a 80-20%, or 80-20 superwash nylon base. But you can see on here that the dyeing is very saturated. There's not a lot of spottiness going on. So it's also possible that it was just that batch, but that is something that I had noticed, so I wanted to mention it to you. This is another one. This is the twisty sock, which is, again, the 80-20. And yeah, see, like the color here, this is Book Boyfriend. It's like very nicely dyed. So I don't know, maybe it was just this one colorway. But yeah, I think I might have one more. I knit a pair of socks for a friend. I think it's called Blood on the Moon colorway, but that one was kind of like this too. If I remember, I'll put a picture up and show you what it looked like. But it was, yeah, I don't know. The dyeing was a little bit interesting. This, it looks like there's no problem. But this one and that other one, yeah. But Blood on the Moon is also one where I bought with 50 grams and I was able to make a full pair of socks with it. I wear a woman's US 7, and the friend that I made it for was also wears a US 7, women's 7. But yeah, it was really amazing that I was able to get a full sock with like the leg length that I like. I just had to use a contrast color for the cuffs, toes, and heels, but I was able to use 50 grams and make a complete sock. And it was a really, really good feeling. So, yes, is there anything else I want to say about Nomadic Yarns? Oh, she has a yak base that I haven't seen anywhere else, and that seems to sell out super, super fast. Her colors, if you can't tell, are very vibrant. There are a lot of jewel tones. I'm not a jewel tone girly. I like a lot more neutral tones. For socks, it's fine because I wear it as an accent or a pop of color anyway, so that doesn't bother me too much. But her yak base looks amazing. It kind of mutes all of the colors in this moody kind of a way that, I don't know, it just looks so good. And because it's yak, I imagine that it's super soft as well. But anyway, her yak base seems to sell out the most quickly. And And the next time I buy from a shop update from her, I think I want to try the yak base because I'm so curious about that base. As you can see, even though this is one of the first socks that I've made for Sam, they have worn beautifully. I did not depill any of my socks so that I can show you guys exactly what it looks like. And y'all, this looks good. And homegirl wears this to daycare and she runs around, like she wears tennis shoes with this and she runs around, and this is holding up really, really well. There's a little teeny tiny bit of felting maybe on the heel, but the stitch definition is still there, so it hasn't felted that much. Okay, moving on. The next one that I want to talk about is Valkyrie Fiber Tahoe. I have not worked with a lot of her yarn, but it is one of the first yarns that I worked with, and so I did want to share her with you. Her yarn looks like this. This is my Valkyrie Fiber Tahoe pair. I, again, don't know what the colorway name is, but yeah, it's beautiful. I still really, really like this. I got 100 grams. I think it was from the D-Stash sale, and I got 100 grams. And I think this is actually dyed very beautifully. So it's very saturated. The stripes are pretty even. There's no like undyed stitches that I see when I was working this up. She also sells on Etsy. And I have noticed when I checked their Etsy shop recently that there isn't like too much in stock. So I don't know like how active they are in terms of updating, but there were yarns available. Her sock yarn goes for $33 per 100 grams. The base that I use is their matte sock, which is a 75-25 base. And yeah, both Nomadic Yarns and Valkyrie Fiber Tahoe only offer fingering weight yarn, so that's something to note as well. This one I noticed that there's a little bit of felting, a little bit of like felting on the ball of my foot. Now, again, this is one of my oldest socks that I've worn, and I wear my socks pretty heavily too, or at least I wear them with my Birkenstocks, and so I don't know if the leather at the bottom of my Birks makes it so that there's a little bit more friction when I wear them. Maybe with Sam, when she wears it with tennis shoes, like it's more snug in that shoe. But since I wear them with basically like slip-ons, it's my Bostons from Birkenstock, I have noticed that there's some felting that's been going on with my socks. I don't really care all that much, but yeah, just as an FYI. You can see that there's some pilling here as well. Yeah, not much to say about Valkyrie Fiber Tahoe, but there you have it. The next two are the yarns that I have worked with the most. And the next two indie dyers you've probably heard of as well, and they are pretty like big. I want to share with you my Freckled Whimsy yarns. The other two yarn dyers that I shared previously, they sell through Etsy. Freckled Whimsy has their own website, so they don't sell through Etsy. And she has so many options, like so many options. The price point though is $32.50 to $38.50 per 100 grams. And when I say that they have so many options, here's what I mean. I wrote them down, so let's see. Okay, they have a fingering weight option. They have a DK weight option. I believe, yeah, they even have like different weight options, meaning you can just get 100 grams of the self-striping yarn, or you can do 100 grams with a 20 mini, or you can do 80 grams of the self-striping yarn with a 20 mini, so that you get in total 100 grams and you pay in total for 100 grams of yarn, instead of paying the little extra to do 100 grams of the self-striping and the 20 grams of the mini. Does that make sense? But my point here is that there's a lot of options. There's also an option to do a yarn club, which is what I've done. I have the Freckled Whimsy Yarn of the Month Club, And that subscription has been so much fun. I love getting my Freckled Whimsy yarn in the mail. I don't know if I'm going to continue it over many, many years, but I just think it's a lot of fun. And on top of that, she has more than one Yarn of the Month club. So right now there's like the standard Yarn of the Month, but she also has like a spooky Yarn of the Month club where all of the yarns are like Halloween themed or Halloween colorways. She also has a Christmassy yarn club where each month you get a colorway that have both traditional and non-traditional Christmassy vibes to it, which again, I think is really, really amazing. And what's really cool again is that you can get any of those sock sets with the different base options and with the different like weight options, like the 100 grams or the 100 with the 20 or the 80 with the 20. Like it's pretty cool that you can do that. The color dyeing is very thorough and it's well saturated so that each stripe is pretty much very clearly defined. And there's no, I want to say like balding, but that's not the word I mean. But there's like, you know, where there's bald spots in the dyeing or something like that. There's none of that going on. It's just very well saturated and I appreciate that a lot. I was able to make, so for my sock club, I get 100 grams with the 20 grams of the mini. And my intention for doing that was to, make a sock set for me every month and not a sock set, a pair of socks for me and a pair for Sam. Like that was my intention. And that's the reason why I got 100 grams. And look, these were my St. Patty's Day ones. This is for Samantha, which she loves. This is for me, which I love. It's also worn really well. There's very little to no pilling at all. Same with Samantha socks. I have made like the majority of Samantha socks is actually in Freckled Whimsy. There's this pair. There's also this pair, which is her, I think it's like Strawberry Fields or something like that colorway. So stinking cute. It's also worn very beautifully. I'm very, very happy with the quality of the yarn. This one I think has been the most worn. Like she loves these socks so much. And there is evidence of some heavy wear with this pair. You can see that there's some felting going on and some pilling going on, but that's because homegirl, I think these are her favorite socks ever. It's because it's like rainbowy and yeah, this is the It's My Party colorway. I forget what month it is, maybe April? But she loves these ones. And the pattern that I use is the Heel Toe Do-Si Do by Kay of the Crazy Sock Lady. This is an example of what it looks like when it comes. I have the 100 grams with a 20 mini, and I get it in the Serendipity base, which is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon 4-ply base. This is the February colorway called Love Story, and I clearly haven't used it yet, but I cannot wait to use it. Maybe next February, we'll see. But yeah, I really, really love Freckled Whimsy. Yes, it is a higher price point, but I do think it's worth it. I love getting it in the mail. This is something else too that I don't know if is of interest to you guys, but the business is it's great. Like she charges the first of the month every month, like clockwork. She ships it out like very soon thereafter. I receive my yarns very early in the month. So for someone who wants to use their yarn in the month that they receive it, it's a great, dependable, reliable yarn subscription service. Yeah, so I'll just say that. Is there anything else I want to say about Freckled Whimsy? I think that's it. Okay, yes, check her out. They're really great. I don't know, by the way, if at the time of this recording there are any openings for her yarn clubs. I think they might all be full, but check it out anyway, because you don't have to have a yarn club membership. You don't have to have a subscription in order to get yarn from her. So yes, say no. Okay, next I want to talk to you about my favorite indie yarn dyer as of right now. It's Mustache Yarns, and it's actually, I think, the highest price point on the list, but I'm going to give you all of the reasons why I love Mustache Yarns. So Mustache Yarns is another self-striping yarn, like indie yarn dyer who sells through their website. They sell out of San Antonio, Texas, and their price point is between $35 to $42 per 100 grams. Now, the reason for this is because she too has a lot of options. I don't know if they have like a set option per se, but they have fingering weight option, they have a sport weight option, they have a DK weight option, and a worsted weight option. So depending on what weight of yarn you order, I think that's the thing that determines how expensive each skein is going to be. So the only ones that I've used is her Perfect Sock base, which is a 75-25 base. And so far it's been pretty good. The unique thing about Mustache Yarns that really sets them apart from any of the other yarn indie dyers that I've worked with, or not worked with, but that I've purchased from, is that she has what's called a must match set. So when you're working with a self-striping yarn, if you cake up just like one skein, typically, I wish I had like a caked yarn, but if you have like a cake of yarn, because of where you start in the yarn, sometimes, okay, let me see how I can, depending on where you start in the yarn, I make my socks cuff down, so, or cuff up, I don't know, cuff down, anyway. It's really hard to make sure, if you want identical socks, that you're starting at the same point in your sock or in your yarn. So what ends up happening is you have to sort of count the stripe. You have to, like, once you finish one of your socks, then you have to sort of, you know, rip out some of the yarn so that you start at the same color for your second sock. And sometimes I do that and sometimes I do not. Let me show you an example of where I did not do that. This is an example of where I didn't like really do that. You can see here I started with the green after the cuff, and here I started with the yellow. It's because I couldn't be bothered to like go and rip back all this yarn in order to get to where I needed to go. So the must match set, what that does is that it gives you two 50-gram skeins in one, where both have the same exact starting point, so that you can have two balls of yarn, two cakes of yarn. And if you start it at the same exact spot, then essentially you'll have two identical like socks. Case in point, this one. So this is my intergalactic sock. This is the intergalactic colorway by Mustache Yarns, and I'll unravel one of the ones that I have to show you that it's like, it's really nice because you can basically have two identical socks without like all this waste. I'm actually going to show you what I mean. This is my apple picking skein from Mustache Yarns, and it comes like this. When you open up her package, it looks like this, but when you unwind it and you take it out, what you have is two skeins or hanks. What is this? I don't know, but you have two, and you put it on your Swift and you start winding it at the same spot, and you will end up with 2 identical socks, which, to be quite honest with you, I think is freaking brilliant. I just love that so much. I'm not one that really cares about having 2 identical socks. I like fraternal socks, so it doesn't really matter that much to me, but it does save me the convenience of breaking up my ball into 250-gram skeins, because while I don't really care about identical socks, I do like to work my socks 2 at a time in tandem, so on 2 separate needles. So it saves me the extra step of having to wind the cake and then wind it again and then divide that cake up into 2 separate, two separate balls. The other thing that I want to mention about Mustache Yarns that I really love, if you haven't already noticed, is that her dyeing is such that she's able to dye these like micro stripes. Like she's able to dye self-patterning where it's not like all of the stripes are even in width. I don't know. I just think it's brilliant. I don't know how they do it, but I love that that is an option. I purchased, ooh, do I have it with me? Oh, maybe I don't. But I can maybe show some pictures of other like examples of the self-patterning that she does. And I just think it's brilliant. It feels to me like she's able to do what commercial dyers do, but she's an indie dyer. And so, I don't know, it's a lot more fun. It doesn't feel monotonous. Like, yes, there is that, you know, potato chippy feeling that you have even with the other self-striping yarns, but with her yarns, I don't know, it's like, it hits different because, yeah, it's just really cool that they're able to do this. Yeah, with like the micro striping and all that stuff. The other thing that's really great and what's really fun for me is that they have a lot of different collections. So I think they have a National Park collection. They also have a Star Wars collection. They have like a summertime concert collection where you can get Elvis themed yarn, or I don't know, like she just has, it's just really, really fun, and it tugs at the nostalgia that you might feel or the affection that you might have for some of these pop culture references. And it makes me want to like have all of them and to collect them all and just have a pair of socks with all of the yarns that she creates, because it's just, the colorways are just amazing and very, very thoughtfully done. Yeah. Is that everything I wanted to say? Oh, the other thing that I really appreciate too is that she has a rainbow collection. This is not from her rainbow collection, but she does have a section where it's curated yarns that are like kind of rainbowy. And I don't know if she does this on purpose to sort of like promote or celebrate pride, but it's like rainbowy without it being obnoxiously rainbowy or like too in your face rainbowy, so that I am very excited to be wearing this all year round. Like, yes, I made this in Pride Month with pride in mind and with LGBTQ plus rights in mind and all of those things. But I also know that I'm not going to stop wearing this, and Pride isn't over because June is over. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, yes. So much to love about Mustache Yarns. They are my current favorite as of right now. But that's not to say that I am not excited to use all the other yarns that I still have from these indie dyers. I have in my stash yarn from other indie dyers that I haven't used yet, so I can't really speak to them. But yeah, if you have a favorite indie self-striping yarn dyer, let me know, because I do want to explore further and support more indie dyers as well. Ooh, this is my latest sock, so I haven't worn these as much as the other ones, but I have worn these quite a bit the last couple of weeks. But I wanted to show you like how it's been holding up, and it's been holding up pretty well. Very minimal pilling. And these are also worn with my Birks, so yeah. Okay, So as you can see, most of the 100 gram skeins of self-striping indie dyed yarns are going to be within the $30 to $35 range. I think Nomadic Yarns is the only one who offers the 50 gram option, which is $17, and and that I think is so affordable. So I would recommend hopping over to the Etsy shop for Nomadic Yarns if you don't want to spend the price point of an indie dyed yarn, even though you want to support an indie dyer. Like, that's where I would direct you to. If you want 100 grams, but you're like, Eunice, $30? I can't do $30. Like, that's just not where I'm at right now. Like, what else you got for me? That's where the commercial yarns come in. So we're gonna switch gears a little bit and to talk about the commercial self-patterning yarn dyers. And the first that I want to start with is West Yorkshire Spinners 4-ply. I think it's called the Signature 4-ply, and that's where I want to begin. They look like this. It looks like this. And I had another one too, but I forget where it went. Anyway, this is what West Yorkshire Spinners. This one is 75% wool, 25% polyamide / nylon. This is on their holiday sparkle base. It's like they have like different like holiday stuff, and I do think that that's very, very fun because each year I think they come up with a new like holiday color. This is the Nutcracker colorway. I haven't worked with this yet, but I did use a different holiday one. I think this is Hollyberry. Yeah. But look how fun these are! I think this is a British wool. And just as a tip, at the time of this recording, I saw this on lovecrafts.com on sale. It's like they sell it for about $13 on Lovecrafts, and I think it was on sale for like $9. But yo, look how cute it is. And this is one of those where it's self-striping, but the like every other stripe or whatever is this really cute speckly situation. I just think it's really adorable. And this was with 1 ball of yarn, by the way. So I was able to get a pair for me and a pair for Sam with 100 grams. No problem. The feel is very rustic, and I don't know if you've ever heard of West Yorkshire Spinners before, but it is a hard-wearing, very sturdy, hardy yarn. I loved wearing this over my tights or my leggings during the cold days because not only was it festive, but it just, yeah, I don't know. Some people might find it to be a little bit scratchy. Like I would never use this yarn to make like a beanie or whatever, but for socks, this was great. It was really, really nice. It was really comfy and warm. I actually throw these in the washer and dryer, and they've been great. They've been fine. There's some felting that's happening in the heel, but it's minimal, and yeah, I get a lot of compliments with this yarn. But yes, West Yorkshire Spinners is one of those that I think is comparable in feel to the Regia and the Opal, which I'm going to be talking about next. But for whatever reason, I feel like it's a little bit more accessible. I feel like it's a lot easier to find West Yorkshire Spinners yarn where I'm at than the other two that I'm about to talk about. So Regia is, Opal is what's next. Opal is a German company, and they are so much fun. They are also a 75% wool, 25% polyamide base. It comes with 465 yards per 100 grams, and their patterning is so, it's so crazy and fun. This is the only yarn dyer and yarn that I haven't been able to wear, but because I did work it up, I wanted to share with you. And because it's everywhere, I wanted to share it with you. This is my one Opal sock. I need to make the second one. All of my stitch markers are still on here in preparation for my second one. But as you can see, the patterning is very kind of crazy and wild. I think the pattern, it goes from here to here. So it's a pretty wide like pattern situation. And yeah, I think the Opal yarn is maybe my favorite commercial dyed self-patterning yarn that I've worked with so far. Yeah, I'm hesitating a little bit because I'm like, Eunice, are you sure? Because yeah, but I think I am. I don't know if you guys have seen my my recent video where I showed like my Zauberball socks, but I used an Opal solid color to stripe into that Zauberball yarn, and that solid color, like the yarn base, was really great to work with, and I really liked the feel of the yarn. I liked the wear of the yarn. So anyway, yes, I also went a little crazy and purchased all of these other Opal yarns, and then there's some that a friend gifted to me. And yeah, this was actually gifted to me by a friend named Sam from A Needle and Yarn Co. And because I loved it so much, I went and immediately purchased more. I love that they have different like inspirations for their colorways that's based on art. And it really does make it look like the sock is a work of art. This one is based on that work of art. This one is based on this one. And it just, as someone who loves art, like, yeah, that's really exciting for me. One of the things that I'm most excited about is using my Opal scraps to make scrappy Opal socks. If you haven't seen those, you guys gotta look it up. Like, it's so, I don't know, why is it so beautiful? Like, why is it so intriguing? Why is it something that I want so bad? I don't know, but I do. Oh, I got so excited about the Opal yarn that I didn't even tell you how much it costs. So Opal yarn, I think, is not as accessible. Like, I found an Etsy shop who sells it, so I'll link that down below. But typically, if you want to buy Opal yarn, I've seen it online for anywhere between $15 all the way to $18 per 100 grams. There is a shop that sells it for $22 per 100 grams. And I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's because do they sell from Canada? Is that why? I don't know, but it's like $22 over there. So I don't buy from there, but there are other places that sell it for a little bit cheaper. So $15 to $18 per 100 grams. The last thing I'll say about Opal yarns is that they even have an advent. I don't know if it gets shipped to the US, but I would love to have an Opal advent. That just sounds like so much fun. And there are places, like there are shops that sell kits of Opal, like 10-gram scraps of Opal, so that you can make these beautiful scrappy socks. I don't know, I feel like there's a whole fandom for Opal yarns. There's like a whole fan club. And I can tell you that I am absolutely a part of that fan club. Anyway, moving on. So next is Regia 4-ply color. That's the one that I've used. I actually gifted this yarn, so I don't have it with me, but it is another one of those like rustic yarns that I really enjoyed working with a lot. That was actually I worked with Regia 4-ply color, is that what I said? Yeah, I worked with Regia 4-ply color before I worked with West Yorkshire Spinners or with Opal. So this is the first one that I had worked with, and I really enjoyed the feel of it. It is a 75%, 25% wool and polyamide base, so I wasn't sure if I would really like it. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I really do like the feel of it. Regia also is the company that has the Perfect line from Arnie and Carlos. I believe that's the only yarn, like commercially dyed yarn, that does what Mustache Yarns kind of does, where you have like a starting guide yarn where it marks for you where you can start your sock in order to have two identical pairs of sock. Identical pairs of socks. I don't think any of these other commercially dyed yarns like have anything like that. I think Regia Perfect is the only one who does that. And then for indie dyers, like Mustache Yarns is the only one that I've seen do that. But please correct me if I'm wrong. Clearly, I'm not, you know, I don't have all of the information about self-striping yarn. So if you know something I don't, please let me know. Price point. So Regia is the first commercial dyed yarn on the list that sells in 50-gram balls. So you can buy a 50-gram ball of Regia 4-ply color for $8, which is pretty freaking amazing, right? $8 for 50 grams. You could obviously, if you buy two for 2 pairs of socks, that's $16 for 100 grams, which is still a pretty reasonable price. Yeah. Okay. The next yarn is the Paintbox Yarns sock yarn. Paintbox Yarns sock yarn. Yes. That you can purchase through Lovecrafts. This was an emergency purchase for me because I just couldn't get my hands on a self-striping yarn for some reason. I just had such a hard time finding it that while I was on lovecrafts.com to purchase other yarns, I also purchased the Paintbox Yarns, hoping that it would work out for me. The colorway that I got at the time was really cute. It was like a rainbowy colorway. And at the time, I believe they were having a sale, so it was really cheap. Typically, it's like $11.50 per 100 grams. But because they were having a sale, I think I had purchased it for like $8 or $9 for 100 grams. And that's pretty good, you know? It is a 75-25 wool and polyamide blend. And this is the yarn I would not recommend. I really did not like working with this yarn. And because this was the first 75-25 wool polyamide blend yarn that I had used, I got so scared about all the Regia and Opal and West Yorkshire Spinners yarns that I had, because I was like, oh crap, is it because of the polyamide? Up until this point, I had made socks with wool and nylon content that I wondered if it was the polyamide that was like feeling so awful in my hands. Thankfully, it's just this one. The other ones were great. But for Paintbox Yarns, man, I did not really enjoy it at all. It felt really rough. It felt kind of plasticky. It didn't glide through my needles very well. The colors are great though, and that's why I really struggled with figuring out what to do with this yarn. I cast it on because the colors were great, and initially I was like, you know what, I don't want to put this on my feet. I don't want to put it on Sam's feet. Maybe I'll use it as a gift for someone else. But then I quickly realized, why would I want to gift this to somebody? I don't want, if there is someone who is knit worthy enough that I would knit them a pair of socks, why would I want them to wear scratchy socks on their feet? I don't want that for them either. Here's what I ended up doing. I paired the yarn, because the color was amazing. I paired the yarn with a different, I think it was like an Aran weight wool solid color that I had, and I ended up making a shawl out of it because the colors were great and I did want to use it, but not for socks. not to put like right on my skin. So I don't have it to show. That's why I don't have it to show you. I also don't have it to show you a finished pair of socks because I could not go through with it. I ended up making a shawl instead. But that is Paintbox Yarns. And I at least wanted to let you know about it because it is out there. And I don't recommend it. If you do like it though, please tell me. This is just one girl's opinion, but maybe you really love it. And if you do, make a case for it. And maybe the other viewers can look at your comment and be like, okay, Eunice isn't. Eunice thinks this way, but maybe other people think a different way and they will give it a shot. Right? Okay, two more yarns. The next one is actually maybe the most accessible yarn here in the US, which is Patons Kroy socks. Maybe you guys have heard of it. I think, is it made in the US? I actually don't know where this is made, but what I do know is that here in Southern California, I can find it at Michael's, I can find it at Walmart, I can find it at Joann's, I can find it pretty much anywhere, and that's really great because none of these other yarns I was able to go into the store and touch and look around and kind of squeeze and feel the roughness of the yarn or whatever. Like I wasn't able to do that prior to purchasing. Everything else on my list that I've talked about so far, I've had to purchase online and then like work with it at home to see if I liked it or not. Patons Kroy is sold for about $8 for 50 grams or $16 if we want to compare it to like a 100-gram price point comparison. However, I do want to mention a couple of things about this price point. If you have, because they are sold at these big box stores, if you are not a member, but like if you have the Michael's app, for example, they very often give out coupon codes or like coupons so that it'll hack that price even further. For example, I bought so much Patons Kroy, like so much. I think I maybe have gotten like 20 balls of it. And the reason I did that is because they have these sales all the time at Michael's where it's like, if you spend $25, then you can get $5 off. If you spend $50, you'll get $10 off. If you spend $75, you'll get $15 off. And so then at the time, I just wanted to hoard all this yarn and all these colorways. And because they were 50-gram balls, I'm like, well, of course I have to buy 2 at a time because blah, 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 blah. I justified it. I shouldn't have done that, but I did. And I definitely did not end up paying $8 per 50 grams. I think I might have ended up paying like $5 per ball instead. So again, another benefit of having this yarn be so accessible at big box stores is that it really has the potential of cutting down the price even more. Okay, enough about the price. Let's talk about the actual yarn itself and the company. The thing to note about Patons Kroy though, and something that I definitely found to be true given the 20+ balls of yarn that I purchased is that the weight of the yarn is different. Like depending on what colorway you buy or depending on like what batch it is, the weight feels different. So I got this information from Ravelry's info page for Patons Kroy, okay? So if you get the Patons Kroy sock yarn that has 4-ply on the label, which is like an older green color, you get 203 yards per 50 grams. If you get the Patons Kroy that has socks on the label and it's like a yellow label, you get 192 yards per 50 grams. If you get a Patons Kroy socks with a tan label, you get 166 yards per 50 grams. So very odd. Like, I don't know why the yardages are so different for Patons Kroy socks. The other thing to note is that I made 1 pair of Patons Kroy socks. And I said, no, I don't want to do this anymore. Because I think what I realized is that the the yarn is more like a sport weight yarn. It's not like a fingering weight yarn, but I knit it to a fingering weight gauge, and so it hurt my hands quite a bit. That's not to say that I would never knit socks with Patons Kroy again. I think I just know better now that if I were to work with that yarn, I would maybe go up a needle size and down a couple of stitches so that the fabric isn't so dense and that it's not so painful for my hands. But I do want to mention that out to you here because, yeah, I think the Patons Kroy was maybe the thicker, or was on the thicker end of the yarn weights. What am I saying? It's like thicker than the other yarns that I've talked about thus far. Other than that though, the colorways that are available are pretty amazing. They're super, super cute. Like, they're so cute. And at the price point that you're able to get it at, I do think it's worth it to make a pair of Patons Kroy socks. I have heard so many podcasters talk about their Patons socks with great joy and great pleasure. Having worn it a couple of times, they talk about the wear of it. Now, what did I do with the 20 grams or the 20 balls of yarn? Well, I will tell you what I did. I should have returned it, is really what I should have done now that I'm thinking about it, because I bought it at a big box store, so I could have just returned it. But I did not do that. What I did instead is I turned it into a blanket. I held it double, and if you follow me on Instagram at Therapy by Craft, you will have seen that several months ago I created this very moody granny square scrappy blanket, and that was all my Patons Kroy sock yarn. It is beautiful in color. I really enjoyed working with it in a crocheted project with a gauge that is not like so absolutely dense. But yeah. Oh, I actually have a ball of it left. It looks like this. And it is a very bouncy yarn and very, like, I don't know if resilient is the right word, but what does this say? I'm curious now. Yeah, 166 yards per 50 grams. Made in Turkey, packaged in Canada. But yeah, that's Patons Kroy. Last but not least is, I saved this one for last because all of the commercial yarns that I've shared thus far are a bit rustic in nature. The only one I have on this list, which I'm about to talk about next, which is the Cascade Heritage Prince. Yeah, Cascade Heritage Prince yarn. Everything else is really rustic, but this yarn is buttery. Like, it's super soft. It's very buttery to work with. I don't really know how else to put it. The patterned socks that I've made with Cascade Heritage Prince, I do not have with me because that was a gift. So I can't tell you exactly how that particular sock has worn. However, I did bring with me another pair of socks that I've made with Cascade Heritage. Now, these are solid colors. Obviously, it wasn't the Prince like self-patterning yarn, but for the purpose of telling you the way that it's worn, I wanted to show you these. So Cascade Heritage Prince, I haven't ever seen them in person, but you can buy them online. They go for about $13 for 100 grams. And they do have quite a bit of like patterns and prints. And I think that that's really, I don't know, that's really cool. If you don't like that rustic feel, then maybe this is the option for you. But I will warn you that maybe because it's so soft, I feel like these have pilled the most. I have only worn these socks twice. And it's already kind of, yeah, you can see here that it's, I don't know if it's like felting, but there's quite a bit of fuzz at the heel. And these are one of my newer pairs of socks too. I wonder if I have, okay. The toe I made with the Cascade heritage. The toes of these socks are made with that yarn, and I don't know if you can see how fuzzy and pilly it's gotten. So I don't know, maybe that's the trade-off. It's really soft. It feels great to work with. And if rustic yarn is not your thing, then this is the way to go. This is what I would recommend for you. But just be warned that there is a bit of pilling that's going on. Now, I don't know, like, I don't know, maybe I'm washing them too harshly, but I feel like I'm a pretty average person when it comes to like how I care for my socks. I'm not like very, very precious and delicate about it, but I'm also not like throwing this in the washer every single time. I do like soak my socks. I do have like bath day for all of my hand knit socks. Sometimes, especially Sam's socks, I will throw in the wash because it gets kind of mixed in there with all of her dirty clothes. But my socks, I tend to like give them baths. And this one, yeah, it's like kind of sad the way that the yarn is holding up. But yes, those are the self-striping yarns that I've worked with. I hope that this was informational. Informational? Is that a word? That this was educational for you, with information that maybe, I don't know, was at least semi-interesting. I love working with self-striping yarns. All of the ones that I've worked with, I think, had things that were really great about it. The only one that I would not really recommend is the one that I had mentioned. But besides that one, all the other ones, I can definitely see the appeal for it. And depending on what it is that you're looking for, I would recommend all but the one yarn to you. So if I missed anything, I know, well, not if, I know I've missed quite a bit of self-striping yarns. But let me know what ones you've worked with, what your review would be of it, whether you'd recommend it to me based on what I've shared with you that I like. And yeah, I promise I'll do like an actual project updates video soon. But for now, like, this is where I was at. So thanks for hanging in there with me, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.